कोई नहीं। Good morning, ma'am.
Hi. Hello. Who's on the IDP side?
Hi, this is Harmeet here, ma'am.
Hi, hi, Harmeet. Okay, I'm just checking if you can hear me and you can see my slides.
You are audible, ma'am, and the
Yeah.
screen is also visible, ma'am.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll be back
Yes,
in
sure.
10 minutes?
No problem, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye, Harmeet.
Bye. Bye.
Armit, are we ready to start?
Good morning, ma'am.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. We have Naina Amin as the IELTS trainer today, who's going to guide you with all the instructions today. So over to you, Naina.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to the masterclass for IELTS candidates. This program is brought to you by IDP and Burlington English. My name is Nina, and I'm going to be your trainer for the next hour and a half. Some of you have already started messaging me, asking me questions, so I don't want to. I hope that we'll be able to cover as many queries that you have about the IELTS exam. Okay, I know it's a long journey, and do feel free to use the chat function and put in any queries that you have. Do also answer any questions that I ask using the chat function. Even if I don't acknowledge all your answers, I am watching it. The chat is open here. And I would okay, so let me start by asking you, there's about 200 people of you online. Uh, and I'd like to ask you, so how long have you been preparing for the IELTS exam? Just a few answers for me to get to know where you are at the moment in your IELTS preparation. 3 weeks, 4 days. Kavya says 1 month. Most of you are saying 1 month. 2 weeks, Atira, 4 weeks, 5 days, 2 weeks. So a whole range. Yeah, okay. 7 days or 2 weeks. A whole range. So from a few days to a few weeks. So what I'm hoping to do is, just touch upon the basics, but really get into some of the questions. As you can imagine, in 1.5 hours, I can't do every question type, and I can't do answer every single question, but I'm going to make a really good effort to do that. And to some of the questions that I have already come up, I'm going to say the questions that I'm going to be addressing today, the tasks that I'm going to be addressing, will be focused on the IELTS academic program, not so much general. But it doesn't really matter because it is the same techniques that you use in general that you will apply into the um, well, sorry, the other way around. The same techniques that you apply for the academic that you will apply to the general as well. The preparation is the same. The strategies are the same. It's just that there's some variation in the question. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Okay. Um, okay. So let's get started. Ketan, I see your question. I think you're asking me too early. So let's get started on that. All right. Before getting into the topics itself, I'd urge you to regularly log on to the IDP IELTS website. It's got fabulous material. It's got all the tips that you could possibly require for preparing for the IELTS exam. So you must get into the habit of logging in regularly and doing all the exercises that are given there. You know that there are other official IELTS partners as well, and I'll put up the websites towards the end of the program. Okay, so here's the IDP website that you should use. And yeah, it's a great resource. And everything that I'm going to tell you is actually here. Okay, so let's get started then. All right, so I'm going to put up a few little points. Okay, just for bandwidth issues, I'm going to switch off my video for a little while, and I'll switch it on again when we do the Q&A. Okay. So just to get us started, I want to know, Prisha, okay, all right, don't ask specific questions right away, please. I'm going to address as much as I can. There is going to be Q&A after each section. Okay, so I'm going to put a few little words on the screen. Do tell me how it is related to the IELTS exam. Okay, so for example, 60 minutes. How is it related to the IELTS exam? Yeah, reading and writing. You're right. Reading and writing. Sumant, you're right. Yeah, 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 correct. All right. Two tasks. Have a look. How is it related to the IELTS exam? That is correct. It is in the writing that we have task one and task two. Okay, how do you fill this gap? International. That's right. It's the full form of the IELTS test, International English Language Testing. Okay. Range and accuracy, where do you hear this word? In the speaking, not so much in the listening, but in the speaking and in the writing as well. Yeah, you're talking about grammar, you're talking about vocabulary. When we talk about these things, the examiner is looking for both range, that means how wide your vocabulary is, and also the accuracy. But similarly in grammar as well. What is your range? How many grammatical structures can you use? And are you using it accurately? So you're right, Prisha, it is something the examiner uses in evaluating speaking and writing. Okay, 0 to 9, of course. Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. It's the bands. Where do you see this? Correct. Lavanya, Nafi, Prisha, a lot of you putting the answers. It is a type of reading question. Navneet, are you sure it's writing? It is in the reading section. Yeah. Okay. That's right. It is in the speaking, Akash, Omar, all of you are saying it quite right. But Anisha, more to the point, speaking part one talks about these first, what is familiar topics. Right. Okay. Very good. Sumant, you're right. It is in the speaking that you have word and sentence stress. It is an aspect of pronunciation, okay, which is something you're going to be evaluated on as well. So it is a speaking parameter. Okay. Band descriptors, anybody? Mhm. Yeah, many of you putting different words, lexical writing, etc. But essentially, what it means is the band descriptors are what the examiner is going to use to check how good your writing is. And one of you, yeah, Omar Farid, you're quite right. There are band descriptors for speaking as well. You're right. Kabir, it is for evaluation of your response. Okay, very good. Okay, so good. I'm glad to see that many of you have all your basics in place. I have a few tips for you to keep in mind right at the beginning, okay, when you do your preparation for the IELTS exam. So, what do I mean by this? I will urge you to train your English brain. What does that mean? Anybody? What do I mean by saying, yes, that is correct, Sanjot? Many of you are saying that, yes, think in English, learning new words, of course, but all of that, but thinking in English and becoming, yes, many of you put it quite nicely. Ensure that all the thinking you do in your day-to-day life is not in your mother tongue, but in English. In this manner, you don't then waste time trying to translate from one language to the other. And this will help you become really, really comfortable with the language. Okay. So points number 2 and 3. You can't just work on exam strategies. I see a lot of people asking me questions. Well, should I use modals? Should I use idioms? How can I improve my score? If your thoughts are only on exam strategies, it will not help you get those higher bands. You have to have a good judgment of your language skills itself when you are talking about band 7 or band 8. That means your English levels also should be at band 7 and band 8. So simultaneously, while you're working on your IELTS exam strategies, which is what I'm going to help you with today, and of course, you must be using books and you perhaps have some trainers as well. While they're helping you with that side by side, you must work on your grammar, which means, just work on your grammar exercises, read books with grammar exercises in them. There are, lots and lots of good books in the market, and work on improving your language skills. That's the only way you can get the higher bands. It's also important to know how the exam is marked. Okay, so in the reading as well as in the listening, there's no problem because there's a set of answers, and you know exactly was a correct answer, this was a wrong answer. It's also a good idea to go back and think, well, why did I get that wrong, or how did I manage to get that correct? What is the strategy I used? But specifically about speaking and writing, it is a good idea for you to know exactly how the exam is marked. This way, then you can improve on the aspects where you need help with. Okay, so one of the ways to do that is by getting it assessed. If you know somebody who is a language trainer or who's got an expertise in IELTS, if you can give them a sample or two and get them to assess it, great. If you're working with tutors, great. But also you can assess it yourself. Okay, download the writing and speaking the band descriptors and constantly keep checking your own work. Okay, this is the fantastic bit about IELTS, the IELTS exam. There is no gray areas. It's all clearly said to you. This is how you can reach your target band. Okay. At the end of it, to do really well in your IELTS exam, you have to have a good range of vocabulary. It's not to say you don't need strategies. It's not to say your grammar doesn't need to be good. But without words, you can't do anything, right? You can't read well. You won't understand what the examiner is asking you in the speaking, etc. So many problems. So consciously build a good vocabulary bank. What I mean by this is, and it is a bit tedious, but it's worth it if you want to get a high band. So whenever you do any reading, whenever you do any listening, whenever you talk to somebody, if you hear them using a good word or you see a nice word in a magazine or anything else, quickly write it down. Okay, make topic wise pages in a diary and write it down. But importantly, learn to review and reuse it. So whenever you write an essay or you write a letter, try and incorporate these words and expand on your vocabulary. That's really, really important. So during this session, this is what I intend to do. In the listening, we're going to do a labeling the map question. We're going to do a writing task 2. We're going to talk about some of the issues with speaking part 3, and hopefully this will address some of the questions that many of you have. And in the reading section, we're going to do a question on true, false, and not given. So that's my plan for the moment. At the end of every section, there will be a short while for you to post your questions, and I'll try and answer as much as I can. Okay. Uh, so let's get started then with the listening section. Akshat, if you'll wait a minute, you will get the answer very soon. Okay, so there are 40 questions in the listening, and you will have 4 recordings to listen to. It's a mix of monologues and dialogues, which means you can have either one person giving a lecture or just talking about some subject. You can also have a dialogue where you can have 2 people speaking. You should try and get familiar with not just American accents, but also British accents. Very often there are Australian accents as well, Canadian. Yeah, so when you do your listening practice or you watch TV, try and watch a range of programs so you get familiar with the different accents. They don't speak too fast. If you're thinking that while you're doing some listening exercise, it just means you are not yet familiar with the way the accent. So feel free, it's just an indicator to you that, yeah, I think I need a little more practice. So don't get caught up in that, oh, I don't understand, the more you do listening, the more everything will be clearer to you. Okay, so that's the number of questions. The tricky thing, of course, is that recordings are played only once. So what we do before the recording plays is really crucial. So Akshat, yes, we can view the questions and we can get prepared. The transfer time, if you're doing a paper-based test, you get an extra 10 minutes to transfer your answers. Okay, so let's talk about how to do a labeling map questions. Candidates that I speak to say that this is a bit tricky. And let's see what we can do about that. Okay, so in this labeling the map question, essentially there is a map or some sort of diagram in front of you, and there will be somebody describing it. What you have to do is to mark the parts which are given on the map based on what you listen to. Okay, most often you're given a list of possible answer, which makes it good, but it also makes it a little tricky, and we'll see why. And that is the last point. Good part about this kind of listening exercise is that it's going to follow the same order in which the questions are given on the question paper. So you don't have to keep looking up and down on the question paper. Okay. Okay. So the reason I think many people don't do so well on this type of question is because we don't spend a lot of time learning the language of directions. So we all know, right? We know English, so we know what is north, we know what is south, we know left, take a turn to the left or take a turn to the right. So these are common expressions, and this is what we tend to know, and we try and follow this listening exam using just this much of information. But it's important for us to expand our vocabulary so that we know the language of directions. So things like these, expressions like this that are not so common, you want to learn them and you want to understand what each of them exactly mean. Okay, so spend a little time figuring out exactly what phrases like this mean. This is just a sample. What you should do is get a good list and try and understand what each of these mean. So, for example, let's look at this map, okay? And you can see there are many little things marked on the map. I'm sorry if it isn't really clear. It is a photocopy from an exam paper. And you can see many different things marked. So let's look at this building A, okay? Which of the words on the left side would you use to talk about A in relation to the river? Yeah, Aditya says, alongside, is there anything else that you could use? Adjoining, alongside are the most popular answers. You're right. This could be one of them. Sanskriti at the bottom of the river would mean it's sunk underneath, right? It's gone underneath the bottom. So that is not really the right answer on that. You can, of course, say before you get to the river. So many ways of expanding this. But there is a difference between adjoining and alongside. So it's important for us to know the difference between these two words. Adjoining means it is touching the river. Alongside means it's just next to the river, right? So if you're talking about adjoining, is it possible for it to be a room? If it's a room, can it be adjoining? If it's a field, can it be adjoining? So yes, those are the words that you can use, but we also need to think, is it relevant to the question? Like it really matters what A represents. Okay. Also, how would you say, is it on the north, south, east, or west? Not off the yeah, off the picture, not on the river. Yes, that's true. It is south of the river, but when you talk about the picture itself, it's not in the north, but it is in the northwest. So we have to be clear about these kind of directions as well, not just the basic things. Okay. So let's have a look at the question itself. Rakesh, it's not southwest. Okay, unless you're talking in relation to the river. Yes, to the river, you could say south and west. But in the map itself, its position, it's northwest. So yeah, southwest to the river. Right, okay. So let's look at this. This is an IELTS exam question that I've taken from the practice book 16. So what are the things that we need to note? Okay, first thing, let's look at this. How many letters or how many things are marked on the map itself? How many are there? Okay, that's nine things that are marked here. And how many numbers are given? Okay, so that's 6. So that's a gap of 3, which means there are 3 extra things marked on the map and there are fewer descriptions. And therefore, that can lead to a little bit of confusion. So we want to be careful about matching the correct letter to the correct number. What else do we need to note? Okay, so what is this map representing? Where do we see that? What does the map represent? We see it here, right? On the title, we see what it is. And what do we have to note about the title itself? It says recreation ground after proposed change. So that means, is it the picture right now? No, it isn't. But is this what it's going to look like in the future? Yes, it is. So when we think about it, in the listening, therefore, what can we predict? Just by looking at the title, what can you predict will be there in the listening? There will be language that tells you what it is now and what the proposal is. So it is important for us not to get confused between the now and the future. There may be future tense, you're right, Anisha. It's not so much the tense, but the matter of it that is important. What is now, what is going to be, right? So we'll need to note that. Other things, there is no car parks or cricket pitch. There are, and you will see where it is, right? Okay. What else do we have to notice? Let me see. Right? What's that? Um, well, not really the dial. Yeah, that's right. It's the entrance. So it's important whenever you get a map, try and figure out where the entrance is, because sometimes the talk it starts talking about things like what is to the left or the right of the entrance. So that's important for us to note. What other things do we note? Let me show you here. We note the river, we note the road, because then we know between what are the margins, okay? The river on the top, the road at the bottom of the map. Also, other things that are marked, really, really important for us to read it. It says field, it says community hall. So whatever is printed out, you must notice all of that and figure that out. And yes, Vedanti, that's true. You have to also notice the key. And it says here, those dotted lines that you're seeing forming angles on the left side of the map, it's actually a footpath. So once we know all of these things, we can orient ourselves and we have a fairly good idea that these words are definitely going to be used in the listening. Okay. The other thing you can see is that even though it's not written, you can see this diagram. What is this, obviously? Yeah, right, trees, right? Maybe they'll call it a park, but most likely trees or a row of trees or greenery. So then it is important for us to note that as well and realize that, okay, this may also come up in the listening. Okay, so now the thing is, when we look at a map like this, it's easy for us to understand A, B, there is a community hall, there is E, because we're seeing the rectangles, we're seeing squares, it's easy for us to identify those. The tricky bit comes with D, C, G, H, F, bits like that, because we tend to think that F is something to do is the trees, or we may tend to think that C is the community hall. But these are actually letters that we need to think about and decide what they represent. I mean, that's what we need to do. Okay, so for example, when they describe, if they're going to describe something with F, you're going to hear something to do with the trees. We can be sure of that. So these are some of the things that we can prepare and be ready before the actual listening begins. Okay, so try and think of what is on the left of, what is on the right of, also beyond or adjacent, adjoining. What are the kind of things? So these predictions may not come true, but it is important for us to make them so that we are prepared for the listening. All right. I'm going to play the listening now for you to answer, and I want you to only do 15, 16, 17 at the moment. We're not going to do more than that. So please have a listen. I hope it is clear. Yeah, let's go. Please pay attention. It'll start right away.
Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20. So next on the agenda is proposals for improvements to the recreation ground. Councillor Thornton again.
Well, since we managed to extend the recreation ground, we've spent some time talking to local people about how it could be made a more attractive and useful space. If you have a look at the map up on the screen, you can see the river up in the north and the community hall near the entrance from the road. At present, cars can park between the community hall and that line of trees to the east, but this is quite dangerous for pedestrians, so we're suggesting a new car park on the opposite side of the community hall, right next to it. We also have a new location for the cricket pitch. As we've now purchased additional space to the east of the recreation ground, beyond the trees, we plan to move it away from its current location, which is rather near the road, into this new area beyond the line of trees. This means there's less danger of stray balls hitting cars or pedestrians. We've got plans for a children's playground, which will be accessible by a footpath from the community hall and will be alongside the river. We'd originally thought of having it close to the road, but we think this will be a more attractive location.
Okay.
Now listen and answer.
Okay, sorry. Let me give you the time to put out any answers that you have. Okay, many different answers coming up. Have a check. Okay, those of you who got this right, it's really commendable. That's really good. Okay, you're ready for this question. Let's have a look at how we figured this out. Okay, so we had the map. Let's look at the first question. I've just got the script out here. Right. Okay, so initially it says they can park between the community hall and the line of trees. So when we hear that, if we haven't noticed at present, or we haven't noticed that it's a proposed plan, we may tend to say that the answer is this bit, G. Okay, but this word but, okay, tells us that there has been a change, and this sentence here that we heard, we are suggesting a new location, therefore it is not G, but it says quite clearly on the opposite side of the community hall, which means it is C. Okay, so at the moment it is near G, but the opposite side of the community hall, opposite of G being C, and therefore that's the answer, and that's how we figured it out. So it's important for us to have understood, first of all, that at present what it is, we noticed that the but was said, and then we noticed what the present location was. If we didn't know what the present location is, it won't make sense to understand it. We won't be able to figure out that the opposite side means opposite of G. Okay, let's look at the second answer. Okay, so here the trigger words really was additional space to the east of the recreation ground. So we need to know what beyond the trees means. What is the east? side of the recreation ground, which we know is on this side. Move away from current location, etc. Doesn't matter because it's talking about the current location. The answer, therefore, is F. Let's look at the last one. So as soon as we hear footpath, we know that it is going to be along, uh, on the footpath. So it could be any of these three options. It could be A, B, or D. But what is the key word that made us choose A? It is this word, alongside the river. When we see alongside the river, we know it is not B, we know it's not D, and it has to be A. Okay, so that's how we do map questions. So remember to learn the vocabulary of directions. Remember that it's good. This question will have the same order as the questions in the question paper. But be clear that the number of answers and the number of markings on the map will be different. So so there will be some extra options and you'll have to watch out for that. Make predictions when you get your question paper in front of you. Try and identify what are the key points in the way that we just did. Entrance, what are the words, what are the diagrams we recognize, etc. And make some predictions. And don't be in a hurry to finalize your answer. Look out for words like but, however, we originally thought of these kind of words can change the meaning completely. And be careful when you write the letters on your answer sheet or you mark it on your screen. Okay, so if you've got any questions, I'm giving you 1 minute for this. Mutukundu, it's better you put this on the group so that somebody from IDP can answer you. How to score 9 band for listening, increase your vocabulary, do lots of practice. How to increase focus time, I really struggle with it. You're right, you can get distracted. So the only way I can think of is if you're the kind that can get distracted, as you listen, make notes. How much time do we get before the audio starts? It's between 40 and 50 minutes. Yes, they're all recordings. Yeah, there's no replay. Does watching English movies help? Of course they do. They will. Okay. Any questions about IDP, please put it on the main group and don't message me directly, please, because then somebody from IDP can answer you. How can we tackle the MCQ in listening? Anisha, what I'd suggest is that you try and do the listening by just looking at 2 options first. Okay, that's the way to practice. Just listen to it and then decide among 2 options, then try and increase it to 3, then try and increase it to 4. That's the way to do it. And also in the MCQ, look at the question stem first. Okay, and try and think of what the answer will be yourself after you've heard it, then look for the option rather than read all the options. Difference between alongside and beside, it's the same thing. And these kind of questions, you must go and research it yourself, right? Because I don't have the time to go into vocabulary at the moment. Okay. So let's move on now to the writing test. You can capitalize, there's no problem. You can write everything in capitals, Preston. Okay, so as you know, in the academic writing, you have 2 tasks. The first one is talking about a table, graph, chart, or diagram. In the general, you have to write a letter. That's not what I'm going to do. We are going to talk about task 2, which is writing an essay. And this is the same in both the general as well as the academic. So importantly, I can't tell you, yes, you can write everything in capital letters. In the marking criteria, this is how you'll be scored. Okay, so you get 25% of your marks for good grammar, and for a variety of sentences, you get 25%. Okay, I'm going in the wrong order. I should go from the right side. On the right side, it says 25% for task achievement, which means, or task response, which essentially means, did you do exactly what the question asked you to do, or did you write about something else? 25% for coherence and cohesion. I hope you know what this means. Essentially, it is how well you organize your task and whether your writing is logical, right? 25%. The other 50% is for grammar and for vocabulary. For more details, please don't, if you haven't done so already, please go onto the IDP website and download the IELTS writing band descriptors. It'll give you a clear description of what you need to do. Okay, mostly this is how we classify the IELTS exams. Karthik, yes. And this is meant for everybody because this question comes up a lot. Feel free to write all your answers in capital letters in case some of you are a little doubtful of your handwriting or you feel when you write fast, it's not clear. You can do all your writing, whether it is listening or whether it's your reading or whether it's your writing. You can write it all in capital letters. I won't be answering this question again. Okay. Right. Okay. So these are the most common types of essay questions. You can be asked for an opinion, and then this is how the question will be asked. You can ask for to discuss some points, discuss two viewpoints. Maybe you'll be asked for a problem or the causes, and then you're asked to suggest some solutions, advantages, disadvantages, and a double question. Okay. Question for you. Should you plan your essay or start writing immediately? Yeah, always plan, always plan. Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. That's really good that you're doing that. And right, that's the way to get a high score. And the things that I suggest that you do during your planning, yeah, the time will vary. Some of you are saying 4 minutes, some of you are saying 5 minutes. I would say initially when you're first starting to plan your learn how to write the essay properly, take even 10 minutes. Don't be so time conscious initially. Learn how to organize your answer, think about all the words that you want to use, etc. Take 10 minutes, right? Take 20 minutes initially and plan it. And of course, as you get more and more familiar with how to do it, you will shorten your time and then you should be able to do it within 4 or 5 minutes so that the rest of the time you can spend on the writing itself. So what's the thing that one has to do? First of all, underline the keywords and really think about what the question is asking. I can't emphasize this enough. Many people lose their score because they think this is what the question is asking, but actually it is something else. So for example, you'll see in the sample essay that I have, the subject is homeschooling, and then there are some questions asked about that. But very often I find that candidates will write about homeschooling itself. What is it? What are the different types of schooling available in India or things like that? Whereas that isn't the question at all. So getting distracted and moving away from the topic is one of the key problems that one can face. Okay, so underline the keywords, understand. And while you're noting down your ideas, it's also a good thing for you to do, practice for you to do, is to write down vocabulary. If you've created a nice vocabulary bank, you've got some nice words which are just popping into your head. So quickly note them down, because during the stress of writing itself, you're trying to manage so many things. The words that you thought of and the topic came when you first read the question, the words might disappear from your head. So while you're jotting down your ideas, remember to write down some vocabulary as well and think of how to organize your paragraph. I'm going to give you what I think is a good paragraph organization, but feel free to do it. But you should know for the different types of questions, how are you going to organize your writing? So then there is no thinking about how to do that. Okay, right? So this is the question that we are going to try and tackle now. Before we get started, you can see that it is about homeschooling. So what is homeschooling, by the way? What does the word homeschooling mean? Anybody? Yeah, studying from home, kids learning at home. Yeah, it could be online. It could be, yeah. So all of you understand. You're studying at home essentially, and you're not going to school. Aryan is right, school and home basically. Okay, all right. So this is an option that people have. So let's have that. That's the topic, and you will notice that this is how all questions are arranged. There is something called a rubric which tells you the situation, and the IELTS exam. This is a typical instruction which says give reasons and examples. So that is a requirement. You have to not just give your ideas, you have to give your reasons for these ideas, and you also have to give example. Okay, so in the first step, we said underline the keywords and understand what you have to do. So let's have a closer look at the rubric. Okay, normally the rubric will have two parts, right? When you talk about the rubric, the first part is here where the situation is explained. So do we write about homeschooling itself? It is not asking you that, okay? It's just explaining what the situation is, what the topic is. And here you can see the situation. Parents educate their children in this way. I haven't really underlined the keywords, but you should do that. So the rubric will have two parts, and then you will come to the questions. Here you can see that there is question 1. It says, why do you think parents, you may or may not be a parent, but you're going to be talking from a parent's viewpoint, okay, might choose. And question number 2 is, do you think it is beneficial? So first, you're writing from the perspective of parents. And the second, we should talk about whether you think it is more beneficial. That means we're asking for your opinion. Okay. So question 1 and question 2. So what type of question is it? I told you about 5 types of essay questions. What type of question is it? Yeah, that's right, Bhavna. It is a double question. Okay. So step 2, let's plan ideas. Okay. So how many of you find this a problem and why? Does anybody have problems with this? Lanakli Ju, you sometimes I feel I will run out of time. Okay, I'm not able to see an answer to the question I asked. Yeah, so especially if you don't know too much about a topic itself, you might feel that. So ideas, coming up with ideas is something that a lot of candidates feel is a bit too much. What if there are things that I don't know about? Okay, so now think about it. Even if you don't have the experience of homeschooling, once you know that this is the topic, surely we can think of 1 or 2 simple ideas. Okay, now a lot of the times people try all these techniques, brainstorming, mind mapping, ask a friend. So there are many different types of idea generating ideas. Okay. What I would think is that we give too much importance to generating of ideas because we want to have good ideas. We want to have brilliant ideas. But the IELTS exam actually doesn't say any of these things. Right? So one, if you notice and if you look through the band descriptors, there are no marks for good ideas. What you should do is to pick the simplest idea that pops into your mind. Why would a parent want to do homeschooling, put their child into a homeschool, right? What is the first idea that comes into your mind? Just note it down, because what they're looking for is relevant answers. It should be connected to the topic. It doesn't say anywhere you should have brilliant ideas or that your answers should be very, very different from what anybody else thinks. Remember, it's a test of English and not a test of your knowledge. Right? Okay. Shreya, can we include issues parents face with traditional education? Is that valid? I would like you to read the question once yourself and see, is that asked? If it is asked, yes, please write. If it is not asked, don't do that. Okay? Right. So, and therefore, in my mind, the easiest way to do it is not to spend more than 1 or 2 minutes on this. Okay, so there was question 1, there was question 2. What is the time limit that you will give? Okay, so give 2 reasons. So just note down 2 reasons, just in 2 words. Why parents like homeschooling? Because that was question 1. In question 2 was whether you agree or disagree. Within 2 to 3 minutes, give 2 reasons why you agree or why you disagree. Finish. Don't spend too much time on it. Do that really, really quickly. Okay, so that's what I want you to do now. Can you think of 1 or 2 ideas for question 1, 1 or 2 ideas of question 2? That's what we will do while we're writing the essay. So have a look at the structure of a 2-question essay. Some of you are giving me ideas right away. I would suggest that you concentrate what's on the screen at the moment. We will come to your ideas in a little while. Okay, this is a structure that I find works for a 2-question essay, but you can use any structure that works for you. If you are being trained by trainers, please follow the structure that your trainer tells you. This is what I suggest. Okay, and more or less most of these structures, yeah, but it helps to have a structure. You should have a structure. So you can see in the introduction, I talk about a topic sentence, introduce subject, but I put it within square brackets, which means it's not needed. You do it only if you think that maybe one extra sentence will help. So you have an introduction, main body 1, main body 2, and a conclusion. Okay, and let us see. Okay. The important thing that I want you to notice, and this is something I recommend, is that in the introduction itself, talk about your answer to both questions. Or if it's an advantage, disadvantage question, in the introduction itself, say, this is the advantage I'm going to discuss, this is the disadvantage I'm going to discuss. I find that this is really helpful in structuring your answer. Then in the first paragraph, you give the answer to question 1. In the second paragraph, you give the answer to question 2. If it is a problem and solution, in the first paragraph, describe the problem. In the second paragraph, describe the solution. So any kind of question that's asked, you can follow the same structure. Okay? Right. And remember that you should give an explanation. You can't just give an idea, and you should also give an example. Right? So this is the structure that I suggest. As I said, it's one of many, many different structures. You don't even have to follow the structure as long as you're answering your question. What is your advice on giving relevant subheadings to building paragraphs? No, you shouldn't have subheadings and you shouldn't use bullet points because that's not then an essay. I don't really know about subheadings. Yeah, if you want, you can, but I don't see the reason for this. You should do the essay in a flow. Is taking a mostly agree or disagree position not recommended? No, there's no such rules on this. Sanjot, please download the band descriptors and see. There is no such thing. The examiner has no opinion. He just wants to see whether you can write well. Okay, and what is the reason I'm recommending this structure is because if you look at band 7 and band 8, it talks about following the message with ease. It also talks about logical organization, clear progression. All this can be possible only if you follow a structured approach. All right. So go on then. Now you can give me 2 reasons for parents to choose. To paraphrase Akshat, you will need to learn synonyms. Yeah, give 2 reasons for this. I'm only looking at those answers. I'm not answering questions right now. Yeah, many of you are thinking about very, very good points. Here are some of the points that I put. Yeah, prevents bullying, economical, to save expenses. Yeah, very nice, very nice. For more of moral value. So all of these things. So I wrote down these 3 points. Do I have to write about all these 3 points? Or 2 points, whatever you've thought about? Should I write about all the points? No, you shouldn't. Think about the point where you have a good example. Pick only 1 point. If you want, you pick 2, but I would just say pick 1 point. If you can expand it enough, that is more than enough. So I picked this word flexible. Okay, because my example is I know somebody who has a child who prefers to study outdoors. I'm going to use that as an example. Okay, what about paragraph 2? Okay, and then I don't like homeschooling, so I don't think it's more. Yeah, that's right. Or you can disagree, but then you should have 1 or 2 reasons as well. Here are some of the reasons I put. teamwork. I think because professional teachers, it's much better. Yeah, exploring, students can explore, and yeah, all of these things, whatever you want. Once again, you can jot down all the ideas really quickly, but then choose one where you can think of a good example. So I picked teamwork because I think that if you go to school, the child can work with other children. Yeah, Lavanya, all of this are really, really good points, but think of a good example and keep that ready before you start writing. Okay, so let's begin by writing. I've got the introduction structure. If you remember, I said do this, write the, if you want, you can introduce the subject. It's not really needed. In the second point, I said paraphrase the question itself, and then you state your answer to both the questions. So here's my introduction to the subject, getting a school education, not really required. This is the question. Homeschooling is becoming increasingly popular. How do you paraphrase this? What does paraphrase mean? I think I don't need answers for this. It just means substituting the words or substituting the way it's written, but essentially saying the same thing in different ways. So how would you paraphrase this? Yeah, same idea, different. Yeah, correct. Active to passive, I'm not sure, Aryan. Active to passive is a grammar structure. Homeschooling is more preferred nowadays. It's getting famous. Yeah, many different ways. Yes. Correct. Lots of you have given me many options. This is the way I did it. You can do it in your whatever language you think is correct. Yeah. Okay. Many of you have also changed from more and more to nowadays. Right. Okay. So that's a good. Now, as I said, in the third sentence, state your answer to both questions. So you're going to have an answer to question 1, which is in blue. And then you have an answer to question 2, which is in yellow. You will notice that I've used some language like this essay will discuss why. To write a thesis statement, you can also use other words that you like. The key points that will be examined is the following discussion will demonstrate that. The central claim of this essay is whatever language you want. Don't spend too much time learning this. Learn 1 or 2 phrases by which you think you can present your position really well. Okay, just 1 or 2 ways is enough. You don't have to learn it because you're just writing this essay once. So don't spend too much time learning many words on how to present your ideas. Just 1 or 2 good phrases. Okay, so now I've written flexibility here. I've written working in teams. So my answer to both my questions are clearly written. So if I put it all together, here it is. I've already done 70 words by doing the introduction. Now let's do a look at question 2. As I said, state your answer once again, right at the beginning of paragraph 1. Then develop words. Yes, you should count words, Omar, if you should know by now how many words fills your one line in your handwriting. Aditya, it's just practice, right? In one sentence, when I write, it takes 10 words in one sentence, in one line. My handwriting fits in 10 words. Most people, you should know. That's the way to be efficient. Then you just count the number of lines. But if it's on your computer system, it's going to count it for you directly. That's right, not more than 260 words is correct. Okay, so let's see this. I've stated my answer. This is how I've written paragraph body 1. Main motive for parents to choose homeschooling is the flexibility. So this was already the idea that I had. And then I just expand it. Okay, I develop idea 1 by giving an explanation where I've said use words like comfortable environment, strict school schedule. I've also given an example. So this is how I've written this. That's just 3 sentences, as you can see. It's not many ideas. It's one simple idea, one expanded sentence, one sentence expanding my idea, and then one example. Okay, now the total word count with 2 paragraphs is 146. So you can see how I can easily fit another 100 plus words and write paragraph 2 as well. So that's the way one would do the essay. So the important thing to remember also is to write a conclusion. In a conclusion, Write a concluding phrase. Again, no need to learn many, many different phrases. How would you conclude an essay? How do you, what phrases? Yeah, in conclusion or to sum up. Yeah, very good, Anisha. Right, to conclude. So all of this, just learn one or two, okay? Don't spend a lot of time learning this. And idea 2 for paragraph 1 is not needed, Omar. Just one idea is enough. If you want, you can add a second idea as well. But reiterating your opinion, what you said, repeat it in your conclusion as well. So essentially what you're doing is summing up your ideas. Don't add any new points in your conclusion and don't write a very long conclusion. Yes, Prisha, to put it in a nutshell, finally, all of this is very good. Okay. If you want a band 7, 8, one of the higher bands, if you want your cohesion to be well managed, do remember to reiterate your opinion in the conclusion as well. So what I do is, okay, this is how I wrote the conclusion. If you notice, it is actually related to the introduction. What is the relation? Okay, it's actually a rephrasing or paraphrasing of the introduction itself, and that becomes a conclusion. By doing this, and you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about what should I write in the conclusion. Just go back to your introduction. If you've written a good introduction, rephrase it, paraphrase it, and write it as a conclusion, because then it is re-emphasizing all the points that you made during your essay. Okay, so this are my suggestions for writing task 2. So these are some of the problems. Most of this I have addressed during this part of the training. I only want to say, remember to enhance your vocabulary. Don't use the same kind of words over and over again. Many of you are asking about fancy words and things like that. Again, the answer to this, don't follow rumors, don't follow what somebody is saying. Download the Writing Bad descriptors. Does it say anywhere that you have to use what's called fancy words? There's no such thing, right, as fancy words. Some words you may know that I don't know, words that I know you may not know. That doesn't mean one is more fancy than the other, right? It has to be relevant to the task. If you find words that are apt, appropriate for the task, that is what you need to know. So not fancy, but appropriate. And also don't write very, very simple sentences. Learn how to combine sentences using linkers and all of that, and write 1 or 2 complex sentences, not every one of them. That again will show that you've just marked things up. That's not the way we write naturally. 1 or 2 sentences in your essay should be complex sentences. That means they should be longer. Okay. So time for me to look at your questions. Yes, word count will be done. Word count, so it can't be character count. AI-based writing assessment, like Write and Improve by Cambridge. I wish I had an answer for that, Vishal. I'm not familiar with Write and Improve by Cambridge. That it's an AI-based writing assessment. I'm sorry. How to fix lack of cohesion? I think I gave a lot of tips. If you've listened to what I was saying, that should fix it. Can I address logically? I'm afraid I don't understand that question. How many paragraphs we should write? That was also discussed, Nafi. Yes, examples are mandatory. I don't know whether there is a rule like that, but the instruction says clearly use examples. Yes, you can use personal examples. You can also make up examples. You can write about things saying that I read in an essay that 50% of parents nowadays prefer to send their students to homeschooling. The examiner is not bothered. They're not going to go and check in that magazine whether it was actually written like that. It should just be connected to the topic. It should be a good explanation for your point, right? So you can also make up examples. Should we avoid long examples? Can we put fake? Yeah, Zainab, I've answered that. If that is your key word, flexibility, then yes, I would repeat it, but you can use other words as well. Do we have to leave lines after each paragraph? Oh, I don't see any rule on that. I'm sorry, I can't answer that as well. Does handwriting matter? Yes, it should be clear. If your handwriting is not clear, feel free to write in capital letters. Can I exceed the word limit? You can exceed the word limit, about 10% or so is fine. But if you exceed too much, it's not going to give you more marks and it's just a waste of time. No, don't merge with the conclusion. Hari Mohan, please put it on the on the main group so that IDP can answer it. I don't know who asked this question about vocabulary, but I believe I've answered that. Can I write first word in capitals? I don't see why you want to do that, but if you feel like it, please go ahead. Shujan, I'm not answering this question anymore. Sorry, I've done that. I've answered it many, many times. Okay, I've answered all these questions. Let's move ahead. Yeah, punctuation, of course, matters. Yes. Okay, let's move on to the speaking. I've got, yeah. Here's a question for you. These are 7 statements here. There are 2 statements that are incorrect. Can you mark the 2 incorrect statements? Higher, please do whatever's asked of the question. Okay, there are 2 incorrect statements, and that is, okay, 4 and 6. Many of you have got it right. So the examiner not only asks questions, but he or she will also evaluate the speaking. So that makes it a very big advantage. The IELTS exam, this is a very big advantage because the person is face to face. They understand how nervous you are, or if you need a little more help, things like that. So they may try and help you by ensuring that what they're saying is really clear to you. Okay, and you don't have to worry about the time and length because often candidates ask, oh, what if I speak more than 2 minutes, or what if I exceed the time? The examiner won't give you the opportunity for that because they'll start smiling or say, okay, thank you, and things like that, indicating to you with their body language and with their words that they've got enough, they've heard enough about your answer. Okay, so hopefully you're all familiar with the format of the speaking test. Part 1 is about, mostly personal information, things you're familiar with. Part 2 will be that individual long term where you're given a topic, and part 3 is a 2-way discussion about the topic that you have spoken about in part 2. Is the speaking recorded? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes. Okay. So the marking criteria, once again, you should look at it and become familiar with it. 25% for each of these criteria. Fluency and coherence, which means is there a smooth flow of words? Are you coherent, which means are you making sense? There's also lexical resource, which means the words you use and the grammar you use. What about pronunciation? What are they looking for here? Yeah, Prisha, they put bands for every one of these parts, and then you get an average. Each one of these parts are marked in bands. Word stress and intonation, pronunciation clear, distinct, and not overlapping pronunciation. Okay, clarity. So, okay, pronunciation just initially means pronouncing it the right way. That's correct. It doesn't mean in some parts of the country, I find people say, feeling that maybe you have to imitate the accent of somebody from America or Britain or something like that. That's absolutely not required. We've got really nice accents as well. And the examiner will be familiar with your accent because it is an examiner from your local region, most likely. Okay. All right. So let's move on. I'm going to, as I said, take you through the structure of part 3. How to improve grammatical range. Pankaj, to improve grammatical range, it just means work on your grammar, right? So not only writing all sentences in simple present tense, you should also learn more complex grammar structures, maybe present perfect tenses, past perfect tenses, connecting sentences together. So you should be well versed with all the basics of English grammar. That's what it means. If you speak less than 2 minutes in part 2, it is not fine. You should speak for the full length. Okay, so let's look at this. Do you think tourism is good for your country? So let's say you've just spoken about a nice place that you went to in your last holiday. That was your topic in part 2. Then your examiner asks you this question. Do you think tourism is good for your country? Okay, so the way I would structure it, just like I said in writing, you should have a structure. Most of the times in part 3, people are thinking, how much should I answer? How do I expand the answer, etc. Okay, so Zainab, if you will wait, you will get all the answers right now. Yeah, okay. And so the structure I recommend is this. When a question is asked to you, please answer it and give an explanation. Say why. If you have another why question that you can answer, say give an answer to one more why and then give an example. So this structure is very similar to what? Stating your answer, giving a reason and giving an example. Yeah, it's absolutely like doing your writing. So it's the same preparation that you do for writing task 2 and your structure for part 3. So how would you answer this? How would you just state an answer? Do you think tourism is good for your country? Don't do the number 2 and number 3. Just give me an answer to this. Do you think tourism is good for your country? Mahima, can you just say yes? Would you expand on that? Will you just say yes or will you expand on that? Okay, so here it is. Here's what I have said. Yeah, 2 has come up as well. So just focus on number 1. Yes, I believe the tourism industry is excellent for our country. What have I done here? Don't start giving reasons right away. That's my point. First, state your answer. Don't give reasons right at the beginning. Yes, Anisha, what I've done is paraphrased it. Instead of using the word think, I've said I believe. Instead of using the word tourism, I've said tourism industry. Instead of using the word good, I've said excellent. So in this manner, I've used the words that are used by the examiner. I've shown the examiner that I know more words and that I don't need the support of the words that the examiner is using. And then I convert it and I state my answer with a yes or a no because it's a yes/no question. Okay, now we go on to the explanation. So why do you think the tourism industry is excellent for our country? So this is what I've given. It's a source of livelihood. Can you give me some explanations, please? It enhances the economy of the country. Yeah, that's a good answer. Anything else? Yes, because there are beautiful places to visit, Aditya says. Yeah, that's a good answer. I'm not so sure. No, let me think about that. Just because it's beautiful places to visit, how is it good for your country? So is that really relevant? Yes, there are beautiful places to visit, but it's not answering how it is good for the country. Yes, promotion of local food and handicrafts, foreign currency exchange, yeah, currency exchange, relationship between. Okay, so some of you are starting to put the kinds of places that people should visit, but is that answering the question? Go to the Taj Mahal, go to Lonavala. All of these things are not saying why it is good for the country. So I would suggest that you think carefully about whether you're giving an explanation to your first sentence. Samir says tourism destroys the local environment like pollution, etc. So you're saying no, tourism is not good for the country. Yeah, that's true. You can say that as well. Akhil, you can put your question here. Please don't raise your hand. You can just directly put your question. Yes, expands our heritage and culture to tourists. I don't know if expand is the correct word. You can't expand your heritage, but yes, you can display it. Yeah, but those are good answers. Cultural diverse, it encourages diversity. I'm not sure how, Zainab, but if you can explain in your next sentence how it encourages diversity, that's really good. Job creation, all of that. Yeah. Okay. Can you give a mixed response, Niven? Yes, you can. You can say, yes, it's good, but I also think there are some bad points as well. Yeah, that's a really good way if you get points from both sides. Yeah, wonderful. That's a good idea as well. Okay. So, right. Many of you giving me very nice answers. Just check that it is related. I've given two sentences. So one, I said it's a source of livelihood and it grows the economy. Economy is what most of you are saying. And then I've also said another why. Why is it growing the economy? I've said because more jobs are created due to increase the demand for hotels, shops, and transport. Yeah. Samir, you're right. You can give negative, the negative impacts of tourism as well. Does the quality of answers matter? I don't know what quality means in this case, Zainab. I'm sorry. Okay, that's right. Handicrafts provide jobs. Okay, so we've given that. Using any of the points that you've made now, if you want to expand on it some more, you should try and add an example. So can you give an example as well, please? So if you've said, for example, tourism alters the natural environment, give me an example for that. If you've said handicrafts provide jobs and keeps the artist, give me an example. Yeah, Sumant, I can see you. Yeah, you're right. Lavanya, handmade bags are more durable. How is that related to tourism? You want to read the question once again. Are you sure that's something to do with tourism and why it is good? You're talking about the environment, I think. You're not answering the question about why it is good for your country. Yeah, US dollars are being converted into Indian rupees and therefore the foreign exchange rates. Yeah, that's okay. Italy and method. Yeah, you can talk about, yes, handicrafts. And yes, Zainab, that is a good idea. Handicrafts, and they're sold. She makes more money during the tourist season. They buy local things. Yeah, all very good idea. Okay, so I did this based on something that I did recently. When I went to Rajasthan, I bought a lot of jewelry. So then I use that as an example. Yeah, so that's the way to do it, right? Okay, so what we do, I think you're getting the point. So let's not get more and more into the examples, but essentially have a structure. In part 3, what you should do is listen to the question carefully, answer the question. When you're answering the question, try and rephrase what the examiner said. So state your answer, develop the idea by saying why that is your answer, and then give an example. So in this manner, if you have a structure ready for you, you're not going to spend time thinking, oh my God, how shall I answer? You know, number 1, answer. Number 2, say why. Number 3, idea. Okay, just like in writing. If you have these 3 things at the back of your mind while you're answering the examiner, then you can focus on the vocabulary. You can ensure that the grammar you're using is correct, things like that. But if you're thinking, oh, how shall I answer the question at that time? You may start fumbling. Okay, so have a good structure in mind. Or what if it takes you a bit of time to frame your answer? Yeah, I'm just coming to that, Zainab. Yes, you can state both the answers, both points. Yeah, okay. So let's have a look at some of the problems that candidates face. The first thing I hear many of them say is, I can't understand the question. Okay, so what do I do when the examiner asks me something that they can't understand? Sometimes the problems you face, and that's why you get a low band score, is because you're using repetitive vocabulary, you're using the same words over and over again. Sometimes you don't know the answer, or you can't think of the answer fast enough. Sometimes you end up giving really short answers. Okay, and sometimes candidates say, I find part 3 really difficult because I don't know what to expect. Okay, so let's see. Questions about the recording, etc. Please put it on the group so IDP can answer you. All right, so let's see what we can do in any of these cases. Does anybody else have any other problems they face here? These are what I normally hear from candidates. Is it okay to ask the, yeah, okay. Okay, so here it is. What should we do if you can't understand the question? Yeah, it's simple. It's a person sitting in front of you. It's not a computer. So you can ask for clarification. So you can ask them something like that. Could you repeat that question, please? Okay, because you didn't hear it or you want a little more time to think. You can even, if you understood the question, but there's one word that the examiner used that you can't, you're not really clear about that, you can ask them, could you tell me, please, what status some word that they use means? Okay, then they'll replace the word for you. Right, now remember, you can't do this all the time, not with every question. Can you tell me what this means? Can you tell me what that means? Can you tell me that? You can't do, okay? But you've been answering most of it, but suddenly there's one word that you don't quite follow. You can ask them for either the meaning or they will change the word there, right? Okay, so you have to use your discretion on that. Don't ask me now. Don't start asking me how many times can I do that and things like that. It's just a little tip that I'm giving you because it's a person sitting opposite. You can ask them this, but don't do that too many times. Repetitive vocabulary, what is the answer? What is the solution to that? If you're using the same words again and again, we go right back to the beginning of my presentation where I said one of the most important things for you to do is to enhance your vocabulary. So you should know synonyms. You should increase your range of vocabulary. That is a bit of effort and a bit of work. That's what you should know. Lenak, if you can look on the screen, I'm just coming to that. Okay. Now, what do we do if you don't know the answer or you can't think fast enough? Okay, my solution to that is you can buy some time. Okay, so what you can do what do you mean by buying some time? It simply means you can say things like, can I have a moment, please? Or, I really don't know the answer to that, but perhaps this could be the answer. I haven't really thought about it. Okay. Phrases like this, instead of just keeping quiet and not answering the question, remember to use an apt phrase to tell the examiner, I need a little bit of time. Okay. And then you get your head together and then get your answer together. Think of something that you can say and then answer the question. Once again, this is not something that you can do for every single question. You can buy a short span of time just to collect your thoughts, right? Okay. And what do you do? Okay, repetitive, a lot of, all right. So some of my things are gone out of sync. So please ignore some of these things. If you've been giving very short answers, what is the solution to this? I think we discussed it. Give explanations and examples. This is a good way to ensure that you have long answers. There's no need for many points. When an examiner asks you a question, have 1 point, maybe at the most have 2 points. But remember to expand on it and give an example just as you do in your writing. And the other thing that many people say is, I don't know what to expect. There are only 6 types of questions. If you go to the IDP website, it will tell you what are the different types of questions that are asked. Okay. And so you can make your structure. You can be ready with a framework. If you're asked to give opinions, you should know how to say, in my opinion, or I think that if you're asked to evaluate someone else's opinion, you can say things like, I don't really agree with this viewpoint, or I completely agree with this viewpoint, etc. If you're asked about a hypothetical situation, you should know how to use conditionals, first conditional. If it were this, I might have done this, that kind of thing, using structures called conditionals, past and future. So you should know your tenses really well. So all the topics that are there on the official websites are really helpful. So learn a little bit about these things. Shreya, no questions about current affairs, no questions about the general knowledge. No, so none of these things, news, etc. But learning about what is happening in the world, what is happening in the news, etc., will help you with examples to justify your answers. So the questions are not going to be directly about something that's happening in the world today, but they may ask you your opinion about education or technology or something else, where if you've got a good reading habit and you've read or you watch the news, etc., you will be able to get good ideas. The link for the topics and official website, you can go on the official website, and I had put it up early in the program. Okay, so we just have a few more minutes. I think I've answered most of your questions, so let me move on to the reading section. Okay, so in the reading section, first of all, be really familiar with all these strategies, learning how to read the instructions, learning to read the question first. Don't do the text immediately, but read the question first. Identify keywords in the questions. Think about the possible synonyms that you may see in the text. Also, spend a little time looking at the headline and trying to understand what the topic is about. You also have to learn about skimming and scanning, and also learning how to read intensively. So these are some of the strategies that you should follow. And explanations about these strategies are available on the website, so please do follow them. Okay. In the reading text, you have these sections. Okay, and what I'm going to do right now is a true, false, not given question type. And what it means is that you have a text, you have a set of sentences, and you have to match the information in the text. So if it is true, that means all the information in the statement is matching some information in the paragraph. And if it's false, that means it's contradicting it. And if it's not given, that means the information is not mentioned at all. So you can't tell whether it is confirmed or contradict. You can't tell whether it is true or false because the information is not talked about. Okay, so let's look at this sentence. Okay. Some quick answers from you. What do you think? Sakshi, that's what I'm trying to do with you right now. If you follow the presentation, it'll help you. Okay. Here are the answers then. Many of you are coming up with really good answers. We know that the boy loves bananas, so it's true. Apples are the boy's favorite. We don't know that. It may be, but we don't know that. The boy hates bananas is false, right? Because it's opposite of what is given here. Bananas are yellow, not given. Some people get this incorrectly because you're using your own knowledge. You don't base these answers on your knowledge, but base it on the text that is given to you. All right, so let's look at a text and some questions. Okay, this is what it'll say. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this if you intend to work the exercise with me. So there are 3 questions. Main theme of the conference was pets in school, online platforms. There is evidence. So what we do first is we look at the questions, we underline the keywords and keep it ready. Okay, so that's the first thing we do. Next thing, we look at the text. I will be showing it to you paragraph by paragraph again, but just have a look at the text. And what we do first is to have a look at the headline. Okay, have a look at the first few sentences. Okay, and think to yourself, what is the text going to be about? So what is this text going to be about, in your opinion? Dogs in the classroom, pets in school. Yeah, many other things. Yeah, most of you are saying stress. Yeah, all of these things. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so we understand now our brain is ready for that. So now let's look at the first one. The first sentence said, the main theme of the seminar was pets in school. So obviously, we are going to have a look at a paragraph and we're going to look for some words that indicate that we are looking for the right information. So underline the keywords. So this is the words I've underlined. You can underline whatever you think it is. So let's have a look. Do you think the word seminar will be found exactly in the text? Will you find the word exactly? If your answer is no, what other words might you see in the text? So essentially, I'm saying, what are the other ways by which we can say seminar? Talk, meeting, any other words? Conference talk? Yeah, very good. So let's have a look at the paragraph itself, and you can see here the word conference is there. Okay, so we know that we are talking about the correct paragraph. Now have a look at the paragraph and read the paragraph intensely. So you've got the correct paragraph. Now read it intensely. And does it answer this question? Was the main theme of the seminar about pets in school, or was it about something else? Okay, so you can see that the main theme is about the need to improve young people's sense of well-being. Okay, so the answer is it is not about this, it's about something else. It is given, it is given. It says it is about the need to improve young people's sense of well-being. So it's not that it's not given, it is not matching with the information that is in the question, and therefore this is false. Right? So don't say not given for this, it is given, but it is not matching with the information, and therefore it is false. Okay. If you have said true, which none of you did, some people end up saying true. That's because they've only looked at the first sentence. But that is only what this person said. It is not the theme of the seminar. Okay, let's look at the second question. Online platforms. All right, so let's have a look at what are the keywords because we need to underline that and look for synonyms. What other words can be used for online platforms? Okay, social media, yeah, websites, all of that, all of that. Okay, and similarly, look for other words like negative effect, people's lives, all of these things. Can you find some words that indicates that? Yes, you can see the word social media is there. Young people, here in the text it says teenagers. Is there any mention of negative effect? Can you see any words that means negative effect? Yes, you can see pressure, exposure to harmful materials, self-harm, all of these words, okay? So now we know that this is the correct paragraph. We've identified the paragraph correctly. Let's read it intensively and then say whether this is true, false, or not given. Yeah, you can see clearly that it is true because it does say that social media leads to stress. It also, and it described it quite a lot. And then we say that it is talking about the negative effect. Okay, so now we finish paragraph 1. Now we finish paragraph 2. We now move on to paragraph 3 and try and match it with this. Okay, so I've already underlined the keywords that I thought. Remember that you can underline whatever you want, okay? I've just put it here. There is no particular words that you can say those are the keywords. There is evidence that the presence of pets in school helps mental. So pets in school, is it mentioned in the text? Yes, it is. Okay, does it talk about mental health issues? Yes, it is. So we know we are in the right paragraph. Read it intensively and let me know whether this is true, false, or not given. Read the paragraph and make a decision. Match it with all the words, match it with all the words in the statement. Okay, many of you are saying true, but some of you have given me the right answer. Have a look at this, the word evidence. Okay, it is a crucial word here. There is no evidence mentioned here. It is again this person, Sir Anthony's suggestion and his opinion. If there is evidence, there will be some data, there will be some graph, there will be things like scientific reports or something like that. Because there is no evidence, we can say that this is not given. There is no evidence, right? So every word in the statement should match with your paragraph. You can't look at just one or two words. So this is the way that we do true, false, and not given. So here are some of the steps. Read it carefully, underline the keywords. Immediately start thinking of synonyms because the words that you look in the questions will not be found in the text. Yes, Omar, it doesn't matter. In the second question, it doesn't mention, but then social media was what was mentioned, yeah? I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Yes, in the second question, it does not mention it. Okay, watch out for distractors. That means things that will make you think it is one answer, but it is actually something else. Okay, so any questions about reading? We're run out of time now. I'm going to take another minute. How to manage time during the reading task. You're right, Anuja, this is a difficult one. The only way to manage time during reading task is doing a lot of reading and learning how to read fast. Don't read word by word, learn to read in phrases. What kind of books should we read? Well, whatever is relevant to the IELTS topics are the kinds of books you should read. The kinds of books you enjoy will also help you improve your vocabulary. It depends on what you're reading for. To what extent do you agree or disagree? It just means if a sentence is given to you, whether you agree completely or you agree partially. Yeah, so you can say I agree partially, or you can say I agree completely, or I disagree completely. Okay, so most of your questions are to do with IDP. As I said, I suggest that you put it on the group so that somebody from IDP can get back to you. Okay, so my final thoughts are these. I've given you a few pointers. Hopefully it has been helpful to you. If you learn something from it, put it into practice right away before you forget it. And I can't emphasize this enough. You should work both on your English grammar, vocabulary, as well as IELTS strategy. Okay, so you have to balance the time that you spend on both of them. If you've figured out that you've made some mistakes, don't just say, oh, okay, I got this wrong and move along. Especially in reading and listening, think about it. Spend some time analyzing. Why did I make this mistake? What word did I miss here? Did I not see the word but? Did I not see the word however? Did I not see evidence? Is that the reason why? Maybe I should read more carefully, read the questions more carefully. So spend some time analyzing your mistakes. There are no magic tips or tricks or anything like that. There are strategies, some of which I have discussed with you. But there are many other strategies as well for the different question types. Go through that. But practice is your friend, right? Multiple choice questions, Zena. So what you should do is look at the what is called the stem of the question. Okay, if you're talking about multiple choice reading, look at the stem of the question, read that. Once you read that, locate the correct paragraph, okay, and read that paragraph yourself and try and think what is the main point of that paragraph. Once you decide this is the main point of this paragraph, then go and look at the different multiple choices, right? I find that that is easier to do than looking at all the choices and trying to match it to the text. Read the text, and read it and understand it yourself and then match it to the options. This is what I find works, because you're right, MCQ can be a little confusing. Matching headings also, Prasanna, is similar, right? Read the relevant portion of the text, frame it in your own words. What is the main point of this paragraph? And then look for it in the headings. You will find one heading will be similar to your thoughts. Omar, I've answered this question already. I'm sorry. Let's not go into that. Okay. Here are some websites that you can use. I don't know what is tone and view. Uh, we deal with author's tone and view. Well, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't follow that. Please put your questions on the main one. Don't put it on direct message to me so that IDP can answer you directly. Okay, so please log on to these are the official websites for IELTS preparation. If you like words and you like to learn more words, these are some websites I would suggest. How serious is spelling mistakes? Yes, you can't make spelling mistakes. Okay, have a look at these if you like academic words, for example. All right. So if there's no more questions, I'm going to wish you good luck.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an insightful session.
Yeah.
And thank you all the participants for waiting till today and till time. So thank you so much. And there is a lot of questions for the recording. So the people who have registered and joined online, they will be sent a link. So please do not worry. All right. And
Okay.
please stay tuned on our website for more sessions. See you soon. Thank you.
Bye.